Welcome to Turn-Based Memories. I'm your host, the legendary Zoltan, and my co-host Mel will be joining us shortly. He's just finished playing Final Fantasy VIII up to the Deling City assassination mission for the first time. This is part 2 of our FF8 series, so go watch part 1 if you haven't yet. Now let's see if Mel thinks Irvine is cool or not. Welcome back, everyone, to Turn-Based Memories. I'm back here, the host, the legendary Zoltan, here with the co-host Mel. How's it going, dude?
Hello, Zoltan. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and we're picking up where we left off last time, where Mel had just finished the Fire Cavern. And so we're going to start from there, and we're going to talk up to the Deling City mission, which is the end of Disc 1. So, you're going to start us off with your journal entry then?
Yeah, so I have one journal entry. I condensed everything. Last episode, if you guys listened, I did a couple different entries, quote unquote, which pretty much coincided with the play sessions that I actually sat down for.
Right.
This was spread out because it's more content. It was spread out over more than just a few sessions, and I didn't want to break it up that way because it didn't make a lot of sense. So this is one entry, and I'm going to read this out in case you guys didn't listen to the first one. And I'm going to read this out now, and then we'll stop and pause on interesting points and go from there.
Okay.
So, if you are prepared, I will start.
I think I'm prepared. I just have to listen to you for now, right?
Yes, I think so.
Then I'm prepared, yeah.
All right. So, dear diary, wow, I'm a dummy.
Uh-oh.
Through the whole last episode, I was telling Zoltan that I had been playing the, quote, most recent release of Final Fantasy VIII on Steam.
Oh.
The, quote, remastered version, in fact.
That's what I thought,
Nope.
too.
Nope. If anyone listening is familiar with the material, which is to say with these two releases, it should be pretty obvious that I was, in fact, playing a Steam re-release of Final Fantasy VIII, essentially a modernized PC port that came out in 2013.
Oh, wow.
And not the remaster, which released in 2019.
Okay, yeah, the remaster was new, right? Okay,
Yeah.
wow. So
I bought the actual remaster, despite many unfavorable reviews, and I'm actually glad that I did. The true native controller support and, crucially, the 3x speed-up function built into the game already made my interest in playing this game go way up.
Okay.
And there were no more ambiguous button prompts. So if you recall from the previous episode,
yeah,
the button prompts were generic, like
B1,
A1,
B2,
B1,
B3, right?
G3, whatever. Yeah. And even if you had, it worked with the controller. I was playing it with a controller. And the button layout itself was a little non-standard, but nothing crazy. Like, it was totally playable. But whenever the game called out button prompts to say, okay, press this button, you had to know what they were talking about. It was like a game of memory. Like, you had to remember what the symbol meant. On the 2019 remaster, it's got native Xbox. It's like a modern game. It's got native Xbox 360 or Xbox One controller support, so all the symbols show up properly, and the rebinding is available from the start. And
nice.
The default layout makes sense. Like the equivalent of triangle, which is the Y button, opens the menu, for example.
Right. So did you have to go? You had to go through the beginning part again, then, right?
I did, but I really didn't get amazingly far,
yeah.
So I didn't mind. And knowing what to do this time around, it was quicker to get through.
Did you play it at triple speed?
Well, that's the other thing. I was able to play it at 3 times the speed. So
okay, you did.
Yeah. Now, so I guess I'll pick up where the entry is here.
Okay.
So I worked my way through the story, and I can clearly see the roots of AAA presentation, modern, I should say, like contemporary AAA presentation in this game, even more fully as it continues to impress with its cinematic blending of FMV and pre-rendered backgrounds, which is to say, we've talked before where the background is a pre-rendered static image, and then it comes alive and the camera moves, and you're
Yep.
still controlling your character.
Yep.
And sometimes it's only for a brief moment that it will do this, but it's very like immersive in a pretty impressive way, knowing that this is a PS1 game.
I'm trying to think of a time where it just quickly, just for a moment, has like a FMV and then it transitions back to just the 2D background. Can you remember an
I
example?
can't remember any game that merged them this frequently.
I mean, in this game, like, what's a moment where it just has a short one that you mentioned?
When you get to Daling City, there is at
Oh
least a couple
yeah,
instances where the camera pans up and out
that's right. You're
for just a
right.
moment as your character. You're still controlling your characters and walking around.
Yeah.
And during that climax, which we'll get to, a lot of that happens where your
Oh
characters are
yeah.
running. Like there's a scene where you're crouching
Yeah,
in
and
the
running through the
parade.
parade.
That's
Yeah,
all FMV,
that's
and you're
right.
running through the characters. It's really impressive.
Hmm.
Like I've never seen a game do that before with FMV. Never, never.
Wow. Even
So
now.
no. I mean, FMV was kind of its time, right? So it was used in one way, and all the games I played that had it was like complete separation. There's FMV time, and then there's real time cutscenes, and then maybe you control your character very briefly. But even that was not normal. When there
Hmm.
were cutscenes in games, what a lot of games would do is they would do that fake letterboxing, where like the letterboxing on the top and bottom of the screen, the black bars would come down,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
indicate, oh, it's cinematic mode,
Time to
whatever. Even if
watch.
it's in,
Yeah.
yeah, even if it was an in-game cutscene. But in this one, it blends a lot of that, where you have dialogue boxes, but you can still walk around, or there's like action going on that characters are doing in a scripted fashion, but you can still, and now even more during FMV, which is a completely different rendering process, you're
Hmm.
still controlling your character, and that is must have been really impressive for the people who weren't turned off from the game because it was not Final Fantasy VII,
Uh.
um, which I unfortunately think is a lot of people, just because they were expecting more of the same.
Okay.
So to get into like the cinematic portions and the presentation, the next part in this entry here, the writing in the game is substantially better, I think, than in Final Fantasy VII. Even if the story doesn't pan out to be as good in the end, I have no idea if it does, of course. But for right now, I think at this point in my playthrough, I'll take Squall over Cloud
So
any day.
what you're saying then, because we don't know how the full story is going to be yet,
Correct.
but what you mean is the dialogue and the translation of that dialogue is better. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So obviously, translation is in play because it's originally in Japanese. But yes, I think, but even what the characters have to say is more fully rounded and fleshed out. And as I say here, even though it is a very similar angsty anti-hero as Cloud is, Squall comes off as much more believable in the scenes so far. The rest of the cast are similarly more well-rounded in their presentations, but again, the payoff for this has yet to come, so I'll reserve my final judgments. But so far, I really do feel like this is a big improvement in that realm of presentation, where he does read as like an angsty young man, teenager, however old he's supposed to be, who's just like whatever. But you can tell he actually cares. He's just afraid of showing his emotions,
Yeah. Man, you're
and
doing a
that
good
kind of
job at like
thing.
reading his personality.
Right. And I think there was a lot of anti-hero, angsty hero burnout from the audience at the time when this game was coming around. And also, since it was in the shadow of Final Fantasy VII, and
Hmm.
it was not Final Fantasy VII, that was a big fair or unfair. It was the table setting the game had to work with,
Yeah.
and I think that just didn't do it any favors.
I see what you're saying.
But I do think, from a removed standpoint, and certainly having no real affinity for Final Fantasy VII beyond just respecting it as a historical piece, um, this character is a better character so far. He
Yeah.
seems like a more complete person, even though he is that child soldier thing, which is a big cliche. At least at this point, and it probably was back then too in anime. I still think that Squall is more of a complete package and more interesting if you're interested in an angsty,
Yeah.
young man who's too cool for school type
Oh
of
yeah.
shit. But they do it well, and all of the inner dialogue that he has with himself,
Talking to
which
himself. Yeah.
I can't even tell if that's him thinking or him just talking under his breath.
No, I believe
Because
it's him thinking, right?
That's what I think, but sometimes people seem to react like, "What'd you say?" Like that kind of thing, almost. So I think it's him, like maybe staring off into space and like clearly thinking to himself, and people are like, "What?"
Like mumbling to himself, and they notice
I
it.
guess, or something. But there's a lot of internal dialogue with this character.
I'm pretty
So
sure
it's
it's just his
interesting.
thoughts, because that's going to continue throughout the entire game,
I'm
and
sure it is.
they get longer and longer.
Yeah, from what the bits and pieces of this that I've absorbed is that there is a lot of like, what's going on with Squall? Oh my god! But again, as I've said in the first episode, there are a lot of parallels in the narrative design between this game and Final Fantasy VII.
There are, yeah.
Intentional or not, they were clearly in the same frame of mind when building a narrative and
That's
building
interesting.
a main character.
It's interesting that you say that you notice the similarities, and then you go to say that they were in the same frame of mind, I think, when they made this and FF7. But the funny thing is, dude, I'd have to go back and check like every individual person, but I believe it's largely different talent that made this game. It's the first one where
I think you're right.
it is. It's the first one. What I know is that it's the first one where Hironobu Sakaguchi decided,
Did not.
right? He didn't really work on it much at all, and he went ahead and said to Kitase, "Go ahead, it's your thing.
Right.
Do whatever you want, basically."
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that he came out very different from any of the previous ones.
Yeah. It's funny because as much as, and now having played these games, or at least starting to, I can really draw this comparison more accurately.
Yeah, now you play 4, 6, and 7, yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is everyone compares Final Fantasy VII to Ocarina of Time. There are a lot of parallels in the significance of those games and what they did for the series they were in.
Yeah.
And the parallel between that and Majora's and 8 and Majora's Mask,
I'm
finding are also very similar.
I hadn't thought of that.
Because there was still a long time original creator who passed the baton, and the next person in line made a game that was a little different. That had like kind of a rough reception in some circles.
Yeah. But some people loved it, and it eventually grew into a cult classic, right?
Exactly.
Maybe more than a cult classic in the case of Zelda.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of that kind of co-development that's just sort of, these things just happen because people all behave in similar ways. And to me, it's interesting because I never quite realized that parallel even existed until now that I'm absorbing FF8 more. And with the piece of info you just gave, it makes a lot of sense to me. But again, I haven't finished the game. I don't know if this is all like a head fake for something else. I know that there are twists and turns in the plot. I just don't know what they are.
Right.
But for right now, with what I have, Squall is definitely more. I wouldn't say Holden Caulfield because it's giving a lot of praise, but a kid who just doesn't like the world he's in and thinks he's cooler than everyone else, and everyone else has it wrong, and that whole thing. But they do it well, and I'm interested in seeing what happens to this guy. Yeah. Cloud was like mysterious past, like, ooh, what is he all about? He's so cool, but he's clearly got problems, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing was the mystery of Cloud, and you solve it, and the mystery is freaking interesting as hell. But yeah, aside from that, he doesn't have any
He has no
Too much
personality.
personality.
I mean,
Exactly.
you see him as a child, but even then, it's just like he's just small cloud.
Yeah, he's just, I'm gonna be a soldier. That's all he
Yeah,
said when he was small.
and it's not to say that Squall has this like grand design to him so far, but
It's
I don't know.
more than what
I
we
think
had.
it's
Yeah.
all in the dialogue. It's all in the dialogue and his reactions. They're clearly improved.
So another thing about the dialogue is that the FF7, it's kind of funny when you think about it. FF6, everything up till there was translated by, what's that guy's name that did all
Ted
the
Woolsey.
Ted Woolsey, right?
Yeah, everyone hates that guy.
Well, I like his
Well,
style,
he's
even if it's
gotten a
not the
lot of
best.
flack. Yeah.
But he has a lot of classic lines, like the son of a submariner and all that, right?
Mhm.
So I kind of enjoy that just for what it is. But yeah, maybe it wasn't the best job that he did. But so it had Ted Woolsey up till 6, right? And when they made FF7 and it came time to translate it, they're like, okay, we don't want any more of the Ted Woolsey nonsense. Like they actually said to themselves that we have to translate it ourselves because we understand it more than an outside person. So freaking a Japanese person who could speak English in Japan, who lives in Japan, those are the people who were hired to translate this game. They didn't have
Oh,
like an American or whatever translating it.
gotcha.
But FF8, then they got like a professional. In fact, I think it's the same guy. I'd have to check. I think it's the same guy who did FF12, yo.
Oh, okay.
That would be a mind blow, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'd have to
It
check that.
kind of would, yes,
I
that's
think
correct.
that guy's name was Alexander
But
O'Keefe, right? Yeah. I think it was
did
him.
by the time FF12 was getting a little off topic, but by the time FF12 rolled around, were they still translating games like from one guy? Had to have been a team by that point, right?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I would imagine, like, the 8-4 play guys, that's like a team of people who do,
Who do it, yeah.
translation stuff. And they've talked about this where they have their own styles and choices for this and that stuff. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm
But
not
that
sure
feels
either.
like a lot of work.
Yeah, because FF12 is kind of famous for like him, Alexander, and one other guy doing the whole thing, just the two of them. And
Oh, okay.
they said in a video how hard it was. I don't know about
I bet.
8 or 9 or 10 though.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Well, so far the writing is definitely improved. It's more fully fleshed. Like 7 still had that veneer of like very terse dialogue. Characters didn't really say a lot. It was kind of video gaming, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But in 8, it's starting to bloom more into prose. But like regular dialogue that people would say. It's just not spoken.
Right.
It's just more, and I think it's definitely better. Whether you like the plot of 8 or not, I think you have to give it a lot of
Credit, for this.
credit,
For the localization.
these technical improvements that are leaps and bounds beyond 7.
Yeah, it's
Like,
impressive
hands
as hell,
down.
isn't it? Yeah.
It really is. This game is a technical piece of like cutting edge for its time on PS1. And maybe I bet people were a little bitter that 8 was so much like more impressive in that regard, and they're like, it's not 7.
Oh,
I
I hadn't thought of that.
can imagine. I can imagine like diehard 7 fans being like,
Being annoyed that
got
it
all
looks
this
good."
cool shit, and 7's like got this chibi like stubby cloud running around. And all right, so let's move to the next section. Unless you got more.
Just one question: since you've switched to the remaster now,
Okay.
are you noticing the difference in the quality of character of Squall's face pixels, for example?
Yeah, I mean they don't do like any animation. It's just the model itself is better, which I think is like a flat improvement. Even though it may not be enough of an improvement to justify it being a full remaster, it's very
Right.
bare bones.
Yeah.
Like you were saying last time, the backgrounds weren't enhanced at all.
Yeah.
That's a shame because
That's a
they are
massive shame.
definitely really low res and really hard to see, which I'll get into in a minute.
Yeah. But they're really beautifully created for their time, though, right?
Yeah, well, I've seen.
Oh,
I
not
feel
too
like
much
they're
yet.
okay.
Right? Oh, really?
I feel like they're okay. They're not horrible, but I've seen better pre-rendered backgrounds in terms of just like artistic design, and also, which I'll get into, the legibility of the gameplay. It's just straight up hard to know what the fuck you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 had the same problem, but 7's an older game, and I was kind of expecting more improvement on top of all this other improvement that I'm getting.
Right.
To come with running around in a pre-rendered background. There's a way to do it and make it not confusing.
I see what you're saying.
So, but I do get it. I do touch on that briefly.
Okay.
So yeah, let's move on to the next section here. So on to the gameplay side of things. This game is showing its age a lot less gracefully. The 3x speed up is fully necessary for me to get through this game's snail-paced combat and through all the lengthy and silent gesticulation that the characters make during dialogue sequences. So there'll just be like long periods of time where characters are waving their arms around or pacing back and forth at an incredibly slow speed, and there's nothing going on. You just have to wait for it to stop happening.
Did you speed that up?
I did, of course I did. You can
That's
speed
funny.
up everything. It's not just combat. They let you speed up the whole game. The pre-rendered backgrounds are not the prettiest for their time, and they commit the pre-rendered background sin of not making it clear what you can interact with.
Yeah.
More than a few times, I've had to resort to hammering the A button, which would be the X button on the PlayStation, to find a door or a hatch or a thing that I didn't even know I was looking for embedded in a blurry JPEG somewhere.
Okay.
Because I was totally stuck, and I was like, all right, there's something in this room, clearly. I don't have anywhere else to go. Physically, I can't go anywhere.
What area? I'm trying to think of what specific scene you're thinking of.
There were a couple places. One of them was in Daling City under the arch. There's a door in the arch. That's, unless you know it's there, it's fucking invisible.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to find. You're right.
And the characters don't, like, you can run through the arch.
And they never say
unless you know there's a door, unless you know there's a door, there are many times that I serendipitously found the door. I was like, oh, I'm glad I fucking found that. I had no idea there was a door here.
Oh, that's right. And now the other one would be the time when you're in Caraway's mansion in the room, I guess.
That one at least I give it a little pass because it's supposed to be a puzzle.
Right, yeah.
But that was one of those moments too where I was like, all right, what do they want? What is it? And you get caught on the geometry a lot. So I'm like, am I missing something?
Mm-hmm.
Is it me? Is it the game? And then I did figure it out. That wasn't too bad, but there was another instance where at the end of the parade scene, there's a hatch that you have to find to climb down.
Yeah.
That was fucking. I was really pissed at that point. I was like, here we go again. So I just basically sat back in my chair and just like hammering the A button, walking everywhere on the roof of this building because I couldn't get down anymore. So I clearly have to stay up here. And there's something up here I have to interact with. I don't know what it is. And I found it. But I was like, this is dumb. They got to make this clearer. I've never had this problem in any other game that has a pre-rendered background set up.
I'm trying to remember when I played the game, and I don't remember particularly having any troubles with that. I don't think I played it with the guide open or anything.
I was close to being like, what do I do? I'm just going to fucking look this up now. But I was like, no, that's stupid. I don't want to look this up. So
not this.
I was like, I'll find it. I just got to press the button at the right spot. I know that's what it is. This can't possibly be other things. But also, you get this little self-doubt because sometimes the game tries to be like dynamic. And it's like, oh, well, you got to walk around for a minute.
Oh, right.
You know?
Yeah, not do anything.
Someone's going to show up. Or something's going to happen and it's trying to get you immersed in the world. So you're going to walk around. Oh, what do I do? It's done that a couple times already.
Yeah, it has.
Where you're on the train or you're in other buildings and you're just walking around until someone bumps into you.
Yeah.
Which is what I was saying about these roots of like early AAA presentation where the game isn't just like, go here, go there, go here, go there. Like they're trying to incorporate dynamic elements into the game that are like, oh, was I supposed to do? Oh, what if I didn't go? Like they're trying to get you to think that.
Yeah.
And this is like early parts of that in games. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see. But it works against itself, unfortunately, in some spots where
Yeah.
you're like, is something going to happen
Or not. Yeah.
or not? Like, I don't know. The game has proven that it will sometimes just do stuff, but sometimes it won't, and you need to do something.
Hmm.
So I feel left feeling like a little bit of a dummy. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's only happened a few times, but clearly enough for me to be like, what the fuck? All right, game.
There'll
Come on.
probably be a few more.
I'm sure there will, because in the sewers, the grates that you open are totally invisible.
Dude, yeah,
Like
yeah. They
they
don't look
don't
like
look like
doors.
any different. They don't
Yeah.
look any different. Just the piece of the JPEG that opens, they delete it.
Right. Exactly. So you just have to touch
Dumb.
every one to
Yeah.
find out. Yeah, that was dumb.
And
You're right.
yeah, that was I needed a little more on that, because, and I'll touch on it later, because the
Okay.
encounter rate in this game
Pretty
is through
high.
the roof.
Was it
It's
through the
really
roof?
I think it's through the roof.
Okay.
Well, all right, so let me get into it.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
So yeah, more than a few times I had to resort to hammering on the A button to find a door I didn't even know I was looking for.
Hmm.
I've come close a couple times looking up through a walkthrough because I couldn't locate a door that was right in front of my face. Now, combat. Combat is better so far than I was expecting,
Oh, good.
knowing all the people who shit on this game. So I was expecting a worse time than I got. The junction system is clunky, though, and having to constantly manage your magic and your GF junctions and the abilities that go along with it can be a pain in the ass. Even though you can quickly transition the magic and the abilities and the whatnot in the menu, you will still spend a long time just filling up on drawing magics so that you don't have to hot swap these magics out all the time. And you'll be spending a lot of time doing like not interesting inventory management as a result. So I don't mind diving into menus and doing productive things. Like, I don't mind that in an RPG. I liked Xenosaga. Xenosaga did that a lot.
Yeah, it did.
There's a lot of assigning skill points in that game, and other things, but it all felt more productive than this. This felt like, all right, who needs magic? All right, where are you junctioning? Hang on, let me go back. All right, let me go forward into the menu. It's not always easy to tell what you need to junction if you're going for something specific. It's like, wait, I have this one. Okay, he has this GF. I'm in the wrong menu. I can't just swap GF. Let me back out to the GF menu and go here. All right, learn this. I go back out. Like, it was clunky as hell.
Okay.
Not
let me see if I can.
bad.
Okay. Let me see if I can alleviate this for the remainder of your gameplay, at least.
Okay.
Have you found what I would suggest? Because this should be a way to just completely solve this problem. Is just instead of thinking that every character has their GF and their magic, instead of thinking like that, just say you have 3 characters, A, B, and C, whoever it is.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And then so like whenever it comes time, your characters get switched. You're like, okay, so I got this new other character who doesn't
A
have.
character gets this, B character gets that, C character gets this. Yeah, I know what you
Then
mean.
all I have to do is go into like the switch menu and go
switch menu,
switch.
yeah.
Boom. They switch all the GFs and all the magic junctions and everything.
That's true.
So
But
you
the
can do
only
that.
the only wrinkle in that is your character party switches so often
It is kind
that
of often, yeah.
you're going to be drawing magic on enemies that you haven't encountered, magic spells you didn't collect yet with other characters. So if you just use the switch function, you might not have the magic that other characters, like, it's not just a flat, because everyone's drawing magic at different rates from different enemies at different times. That's the only part where maybe it would get a little, and you can obviously, that's fixable because you can move magic around. But
I mean, you could draw with all 3 characters in any battle, so I mean, I know.
if you don't give them the draw mechanic, you can't. Sometimes I don't.
Sometimes you don't. Okay, yeah, I always do.
Because,
okay.
Yeah, I'm still like nailing down how I want to play this game and like strategy wise. And sometimes I won't give a character draw so that they can summon their GF and use items just in case. But items I'm finding aren't especially
Are they
necessary.
not useful? Yeah, not necessary for sure. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling like maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just like risk, quote unquote, not using items and magic seems to be enough, especially if you spend the time drawing curative magic and whatnot,
Hmm.
which I don't mind doing if that will fix it. But yeah, I'll find myself in, and I guess it's intended, but sometimes the junction system will give you the challenge of, well, shit, I have this item, this magic junctioned, but I need to use it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you don't want to, but you're like, eh. Um, and I guess maybe it should be on you to like avoid those scenarios more like
Well,
skillfully, but
I guess so. In my what I always thought was that that was the whole point of the system that they've created here is that you have to, make a choice. Um,
mhm,
if you want to use the magic spell that you junction or not.
right.
But the
I
thing
try
is,
not to.
you try not to. Yeah, I always didn't, and I don't know. In the end, I kind of feel like they didn't really succeed in making that into a really compelling gameplay experience. I mean, I
Sure.
think the combat on its own is fine. I just don't
Yeah.
really think that the whole idea of like, not the idea. I don't think they actually managed to create the situation where I'm in there being like, oh, like if I use this, it's gonna lower my stat, and that's gonna make me weaker later, and that's gonna be a problem. Should I just use it anyway though? Like I never found myself in that position once, and to be honest, I think you're just because you don't know how the game is gonna turn out yet in terms of challenge
Mm,
and stuff, is the main reason you're worried about it. But I think that
probably.
that really never actually mattered.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression because even when you do use up that magic, the points aren't going down that profoundly. You draw magic like handfuls at a time. You're getting like five,
Yeah,
9 of them a pop.
yeah.
So I'm not too concerned when I find myself in that scenario. It just feels like, I'm doing it wrong. You just get that feeling.
Mm.
And sometimes it's just like, I didn't organize this. I should have done it. I knew I should have done it. And now I'm in a scenario where someone doesn't have this magic that they're supposed to have. 'Cause I didn't do the homework of
Of going
moving
into the
all the
menu.
magic around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I think the game systems are like kind of breaking down a little bit, where it's like you're actively avoiding engaging with them.
Yeah.
But they're not as bad. Like I think they got super close to hitting on something good because you don't want to just remove the junction system because that also is the reason why you're able to draw magic, and there's that collection element of the combat that's kind of cool. I like
Hmm.
drawing magic.
You do,
I
huh?
don't know that I like, yeah, I don't know that I like junctioning it.
That's the
If
opposite of
that
what
makes any
everybody else
sense.
says.
I don't
Everybody's
know, like,
because
yeah,
I think the main reason that the haters of FF8 combat, I think the reason they don't like it is because they go into combat and they're like, okay, so the way you get more powerful is you junction the magic that you draw, and so they go into the combat with the mentality that so I should sit here and draw 100 of these because why wouldn't I? Kind of a
right,
thing. Like
right,
that's
right,
what I'm
right, right.
supposed to do to get powerful in
Uh-huh.
the game. And then they were like, this is too goddamn repetitive and boring. Oh my god! And there are lots of people who make that point. And there's a famous FF8 video out there by this dude called Spoonie or something.
Okay.
And he just like makes a whole bunch of jokes about how bad FF8 combat is, and that's one of the main things. And also myself, when I played, I was like, well, of course I'm gonna just go ahead and draw the max number, right?
Of course. I mean, it's a grinding thing. You're gonna get all of them.
Yeah,
It's not that hard to do either. You can do it in one combat.
right. But you could
And
say that
yeah.
that's just this is the stupidest, worstest thing ever to say, but you could say, well, you're playing the game wrong. And what I mean is there
Right,
really
right,
is
right.
no wrong
Yeah.
way to play the game. I just mean, dude, if you're finding that boring, why don't
Don't
you
do it.
stop doing that and just see
Yeah.
how far you can get without doing that? And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people didn't want to do that because, you always worry about not being powerful enough
Right.
late game, right?
Yeah. You have to strike a balance in game design between um, playing to the player's not ambitions, but their inclination. Where if you make a system where people are going to be inclined to do a certain thing, but that thing is boring, maybe you've made a bad system or a less than perfect system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where if everyone feels compelled to have to collect 100 of these things, well, you maybe should have done something that made it
Yeah.
more clear
Yeah.
that that's not what you should do. And yeah, you can say, well, if you find it boring, don't do it. And I agree. And there's some self discipline that has to go on there, which I'm all for. But at the same time, if the system is going to encourage you, or if the genre that the system is embedded in
It
is going
encourages
to
you. Yeah.
encourage you to like stock up and make sure you always have extra, then they have to be aware of what game they're making and what their players want to more of a degree than maybe they did with this battle system.
That's a good point.
It's a fine line to ride. Like it's easy to make this mistake. Games make it all the time. Because the developer has a vision for the game and they want you to do this. And oftentimes, when a game is at its best, is when you're clearly in step with what the developer wants you to do. You're like, oh, I get it. This is how you're supposed to play this game.
Right.
And that's usually when you have a lot of fun with a game.
But then a lot of people, have tons of fun just doing whatever their way.
Doing their own
it wasn't
thing,
the
of course.
intended one, right? Like the
course,
guy
right.
who made. Okay, I can't remember the name of the game, but a guy who made like an indie RPG that became pretty famous. He had this system where every area, every dungeon has only a set number of encounters, and so he said in like an interview once that people like people weren't playing it the way that he was intending them to play it. What he had intended was you explore the dungeon, you fight battles, and eventually that's enough battles that he has decided you need. Go ahead and just finish exploring the rest of the dungeon without battles. But what people would do in that game, you could just stop and just like pick a option in the menu to say find a battle and fight all the battles stationary in one tile, and then just walk through the whole dungeon looking around for stuff, which is what I would do. But I mean, no, that game still turned out to be really popular with that, so it was fine. So interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to strike, and it's an easy mistake. So yeah, the other part that I was mentioning here in this paragraph was that because of how often your party members can switch on you, it can make this inventory management system a little, which is already I think a little cumbersome, a little worse. And it would be one thing if it was like they switched them around in a predictable way, but especially at the end of this disc 1, it happens like at the snap of a finger. You're this
That's
group,
right.
you're this group, you're this group, you're this group.
Yeah.
And at some point, maybe I must have done something wrong. I didn't have a GF to give every one of my party members. And so when you don't have a GF junction to your character, all they can fucking do is attack.
Yeah, they're super weak.
They're
Yeah.
super, super limited. That's how crazy necessary the summons are in this game.
Yeah.
And that I didn't feel too good. I think I know what I did. I think I had Squall, he double bound the GF because that was part of his build. I had him be like a caster healer type of character. So I had his magic buffed really high, and if I took away either one of the GFs he had, it broke the build that I had for him. I was like, well, that sucks.
I see.
I have enough now. I think they gave me another one GF just at the end.
Yeah,
But yeah, so for a moment there, I was playing with one character who could just attack, so I just gave her Berserk, and then I said, here, go, have fun.
That's weird. Huh. A useful gameplay mechanic that they don't I don't believe they ever tell you. If you want to get more out of every time you draw, in battle it seems that the max is 9, but from draw points you can get more than 10. So
yeah, I've gotten 11.
Yeah, there's that. I think most I ever got was like 14. But the thing that there is actually a stat that you raise, and that would be the magic stat, I believe. So
really?
If you up your magic stat, that person will draw more magic.
From draw points and enemies?
Yes, from both, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good to know. It does feel like Squall's he has the highest magic stat on my team, so it does feel like He's been drawing more. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to know. All right, so my next section here. Also, this is the first game in a long while where I actually laughed at how high the encounter rate is.
Oh,
If
man.
you get 4 steps on the overworld, that's a lot.
Yeah. What? Exaggeration. I
I
claim
don't think so.
exaggeration.
I don't think so.
4 steps is
remember,
literally. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, that was happening to me. And whenever 4 steps would pass and I didn't get an encounter, I was like, "Oh wow, okay,
Not bad.
yeah, oh, I'm fucking breezing now. Everybody, watch out."
I'm on a roll.
So then I go on to say here, my usual concession to this in games is that, well, I'm leveling up, I guess. But that gets hampered by the knowledge that enemies are leveling up with me.
Yep.
You access better magic, but that just means I then need to spend the time harvesting Blizzaras to
Yep.
replace my blizzards.
Yep. That's a good point.
The GFs, yeah, so it means I now have more work to do. The GFs leveling up is arguably a much better reward, but I'm
By
not
far.
in...
By far.
But then I said I was in the awkward position of not having enough for my party. I already mentioned that. Yeah, when they level up, it's actually a much more interesting, or really when they learn a skill, because they seem to level up every other battle. I don't know what's going on there.
Oh,
but
well, there are lots of GFs, so probably they're just staggered leveling up. A GF is leveling up maybe every other battle.
Probably, right. But it does seem to pop pretty frequently. But yeah, whenever they learn a skill or ability or whatever
you want to call it,
that is usually a bigger deal. I'm like, ooh, now real improvement. I got 20% extra magic damage or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, nearly all, like a lot of the GF abilities that you learn are all the most powerful things you can get in the whole game, really, you'll find out.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question about GF abilities now?
Mm-hmm.
About the ones you've learned? Have you, for example, learned any of the abilities? Well, for example, last week we mentioned the card ability. Did you bother to learn that one or no?
I did not. I haven't touched the card game. I feel like that's going to be like the, oh, what are you doing moment for some people. But maybe. I just have not touched the Triple Triad.
I mean, when I first played the game, I was like, no, I'm not playing stupid cards either. And, I got through it eventually. Did you learn any of the abilities that say refine, what is it called? Like status, refine magic, or refine fire magic?
No, I haven't. I've been learning the ones that give flat stat buffs, and
those are
the
good
ones that let me junction to stat damage, because those seem particularly useful. If I can blind an enemy 100% of the time, that seems pretty effective.
That's cool, yeah. Yeah, oh, you mean you junctioned blind to your status attack?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Oh, that is sweet. Yeah. The status refine magic, fire refine magic, whatever refine magic it says. If you learn those, you might notice that a lot of battles, the enemies drop just these random what the hell is that items.
Yeah.
But if you have those, what those let you do is you can get magic from items in your inventory, including all the things that enemies drop. So a couple of the most famous ones, for example, if you have the cure or healing refined magic, you could just go to a shop and buy tents, the item that lets you heal everybody at a save point or something, 100%. You could just turn like a bunch of tits into Curaga spells.
Ooh.
So there you go. There's something to help you out a little bit.
And I bet if you junction that to a stat, it's probably crazy.
It's like, if you just junction it to like vitality or HP, it goes up a hell of a lot. And also, another famous one is the very first area, Balam Garden. There's the beach out there. If you fight those I have no idea what the correct pronunciation is. Fastitokalon, those fish.
Okay.
Did you go fight on the beach at all?
On the beach, maybe not. I don't remember fish.
Yeah, there's these flying fish things. They start out in the ground, and you can only see their fin. You hit them once or twice, and then they pop out, and you can hit them.
Okay.
But those guys, they drop fish fins or something, and those can be changed with like water or ice magic refined, turned into water spells, which are also really good for junctioning. Basically, it's pretty simple. The stronger the spell, the better it, the more it increases a stat when you junction it. So, I
Right.
mean, and water is better than like just ice 1. So there you go.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's part of this, like I was saying, there's part of this they got very close to. I like collecting magic. I like that idea. Um, the management of it, I think, could have been done better. The menu systems are really old school. Like they're everything's abbreviated to hell, and it's like kind of hard to read what some of it means.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
but
menu colors are ugly, I think. Like that gray is like not appealing to me at all.
yeah, it's not the best. Although I think
I mean, that's
a lot of
subjective, but
games kind of have that problem too. But I just find navigating the menu to be a little like I go into the wrong menu a lot, especially when I'm junctioning, because there's a lot of sub menus happening in the junction menu, and it's kind of hard sometimes to remember. But my other thing, I actually didn't write it down here because I remembered it just now. In the combat, since we're talking about more in the combat vein, is that I have it set to the wait mode,
yes.
where it's supposed to wait and stop when you're picking your options, right?
Yeah.
Now it won't wait when you're not doing it. Like if you're just sitting there picking your nose, the game's going to keep going on
Yes.
until you go into a menu
Yes.
and then pick. Oh, I want to cast this spell or this item or blah blah blah.
Did it
Then
work this time?
stops. It worked this time, and it worked last time. I realized why I thought it wasn't working.
Okay.
Because when you then go to pick your target, the game starts again.
Oh, during the target time, it also starts. Okay.
Yeah, which is
That's
really
interesting.
awkward because
kinda
you have
weird.
this little bubble in between where you're outside of the menu and the game's going, and you go into the menu and it stops, and you pick what you want, and now you have to pick what target you want, and the game's starting again. I'm like, God damn it, let me pick who I want. The other thing that I fixed, which I guess I didn't realize was an option before, is the game lets you pick from a scrollable menu your
Yeah.
targets
Yeah, from a win
instead of
the
on the
on-screen cursor.
field,
Yeah.
because that could be whatever direction the camera is in, which is really awkward,
Yeah.
especially when the enemies are running around attacking you. It's like, what am I attacking? Where's this little glove? I can't see it.
Yeah.
So
Totally, yeah.
thankfully they realized that and they put in that menu option, which is really good. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Did you play with cursor memory turned on in this game?
I usually play every RPG with cursor memory turned on.
Oh,
I
you
think I
do?
did back then too.
I usually don't, and this is the first game where I feel like, no, you kind of have to.
Because you want to do the same thing every time, is why?
I want to do a lot of drawing, and drawing is an awkward menu combo.
That's right. Attack is always at the very top, right?
Attack, and then you go down 2 spaces to draw, then you go down or up to stock or cast.
That's for
and
true. Yeah.
Oftentimes you want to cast instead of cast your own magic, and then you have to pick the target. So it's a lot of up and down in weird directions that aren't intuitive. So if you just set it to memory,
You
it's
could just
super
push the X
just
button.
mash A over
Yeah.
and over and over.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, you
is
wanna
really
do that.
helpful in this game.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
when you're-
definitely do want to do that.
When you're collecting lots of magic, you definitely want to do that.
Yeah, and another note was since the 3 times speed up in this game is quite fast.
That's right. Triple
actually-
speed. Yeah.
I actually turned the in-game battle speed all the way down
Right.
and did the 3x speed up, and that kind of balances it to this happy medium where everything's happening. The animations are quicker.
Wait.
But
Are you
you're-
playing the whole game triple speed?
I slow it down when there's any kind of a cinematic thing happening. But
Okay.
a lot of cinematics automatically throttle it down for you.
Yeah, that happens.
Some don't. If the character is just like standard dialogue, then no. But and none of the FMVs go triple speed. All the FMVs they don't
Normal
speed
speed.
up.
Yeah.
But combat for sure.
All
unless it's a
combat you've been playing
really-
triple speed?
Unless
Basically?
it's a really hard battle where I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to like accidentally not press a button fast enough, then I'll
Right.
turn it off. But for the most part, yeah, I have it all triple speed.
Okay.
And it feels normal at this point. Like, when you speed something up for long enough,
You get used to it.
You
If
get
you
used
go
to it. And
back to normal, it feels super slow then.
feels super slow, and I cannot run around in this game at normal speed. It's like comically slow. I'm like, really? This is how slow this game is? That feels wrong.
Huh. I've never played it with the. I don't think I've played. I have the freaking remake on PS4, but I haven't. I was just messing around at the opening scene, so I didn't worry about it. I don't know. I feel like if I was running around Garden at triple speed, it would mess up my
It
my immersion a little bit.
it doesn't feel that fast because the characters are really slow. Like
Hmm.
it animates quite slowly. I don't
Yeah.
know what it is, but
Okay.
some of the animations are awkward. But
I know
I'll take it.
battles are definitely slow because it, like we
They're
mentioned
really
before, it
slow.
pans all over the place before the battle even starts. Um, and yeah,
And
the
just the animations of
animations are long
characters running
too.
up to bop you on the forehead and running back, and then
Yeah.
the victory animation's kind of slow. Everything's slow. The fucking GF summons, even though they're not as bad as Final Fantasy VII, they're pretty fucking slow.
No, no, no. The GF summons are probably. I guess the beginning ones aren't, but they get longer and longer, dude.
Oh, great.
It's
Here we go.
amazing.
All right. Well,
Anyway,
we'll cross that bridge. Um, so let's see. Now at my last comment here is that so. Lest I sound like I'm hating my time with the game so far, I'll close out with this remark. The game is definitely a precursor to quote unquote easy AAA games, as progressing through this can sometimes be a little bit confounding, but it's never arduous, which is to say, it's never a big pain in the ass to get done what needs to get done in this game for the
mm,
story.
mm,
Once you know what to do or where to go, the task itself is pretty smooth. And not just the game difficulty, but the length of the dungeons as well are not the dungeon crawl of Final Fantasy VII or other contemporary RPGs, or even PS2 RPGs for that matter, that we have played on this channel. And I feel like I got to Disc 2 a lot sooner than I was expecting, which is not a bad thing in my opinion.
no, that's not. That's a good
Um,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of games were like, well, we got to give them content. We can't just let them. And I think this game's more like, no, people want to fucking get to the cool shit. They want you
Yeah.
to, you want to hit these story beats at like a kind of a good rhythm. You don't want to get bogged down in these dungeons for too long. Yeah, it is a role playing game, and people are still in that market pretty heavily at this point. But you can tell they picked up the pace a bit in this game. At least they did so far. I feel like I'm changing scenery pretty quickly.
Mm.
The flashbacks we haven't discussed with Laguna or wherever they are. I don't know if they're flashbacks or I don't know what the fuck's going on. But you play as this other cast of people briefly here and there, and then that ends and you're back with Squall, and then you're somewhere else. And the pace of it is, I think, a lot better than 7
Mm, mm, mm.
so far for the environments, at least.
I see. That was really interesting stuff that you wrote. I didn't expect you to write it in that way. I thought you'd talk about more individual things that you did. I know you didn't want to
No,
talk about every individual one.
I didn't want to do a beat by beat because a lot of it is the same. It's a role playing game, so
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about that time I got into a weird fight at the whatever enemy. I lost. I had a couple game overs in the that Minotaur fight, which
Yeah.
you can fight early, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm ready for this, and I'm like, I'm super not ready for this. Maybe I feel like I could probably do it if I just had the right stuff, but I didn't have the right stuff.
Oh, so you didn't actually beat those guys?
No, I didn't beat those guys. I got kind of close, but they were just dishing out too much damage, and I knew what I had to do. I had to cast float so that it wouldn't heal, but that wasn't my problem. They were just whacking me way too hard.
Hmm.
So what I needed to do was junction more like HP and vitality, basically.
Okay.
Uh,
I got some questions
but
for you. Hmm.
all right, go for it.
Okay. And some of them are going to be the individual things that you did, though. So, first off, I want to ask you, what do you think of the after battle fanfare music? Do you want me to remind you what 6s and 7s sounded like?
Yeah, is it not?
And then
Is
the
this
part
not
after.
what the?
That's what it is. So and then 6 would go da 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 da
Oh
da da
shit, you're right.
da 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 da. Okay, and then
Doesn't
7
do that.
and then 7 would go. 8
Yeah.
does the freaking jungle beats like.
Yeah, you're right.
What do you think of the jungle beats version of the FF8 of the battle fanfare?
I knew it was different, but for some reason I couldn't pin down what was different about it.
I mean,
And
it's
I
totally
remember,
different.
I mean, it's totally different. You're right, but obviously the intro isn't.
The intro
It's
is the same. Yeah.
And I was like, that's the same. But in my head, like I wasn't focusing on it fully, so I was
Okay.
like, something's different here, and then I would move on and do the next thing. And I knew I was like, Zoltan's going to talk to me about this. I think.
Yep. So just curious what
But,
you think of it now that I'm asking you anyway.
I guess 7's is better in this case. I like that end loop. I think it's a cooler celebratory loop.
Okay.
This one's not bad though.
I feel like I don't like it on just on a personal level, but also, like I said, it feels awfully jungly to me, and I just don't feel like it matches. Like
there have been a couple instances in cutscenes where some of the music didn't quite line up with what was happening on screen. I've noticed.
There's a scene where you're getting crowned a seed after you went on the mission, and during that time, there's some music. I mean, it's got a lot of military sounding drums, like dun 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 dun. And I thought, like, whoa, this is awesome, and it has this kind of military drum feel to it, is what I thought. But like, I don't know, man. The battle fanfare, the victory music, I feel like it does not even match FF8 at all.
I'll have to pay more attention to it. You're right, it is different.
Yeah.
I'll probably feel the same way once I hear it again because I knew it was different. What kind of got me was the total battle scene being different when you're fighting as Laguna.
Yeah. So that's genre is called Eurobeat, right?
I guess. Sure.
Yeah. What did you think of that song? That song is called song is called Man with a Machine Gun, which it works perfectly for Laguna's
sure it does. I had heard that song before, or that track before, because of course I've heard a lot of Final Fantasy music before. Had no idea that's where it was. And I was like, whoa, that's what this is from. Okay. Yeah. And I was really digging it. I liked the change.
Same here.
I think it did a good job of like emphasizing this is different, or something. Pretty cool. Really cool beat too. I liked it.
Yeah, I really like it too. It's kind of funny. I've said in a previous something that we've recorded that really anybody could hear a soundtrack and see what's going on the screen while they hear it and just make the connection that, yeah, I can see that this music, kind of personifies this kind of scene or whatever. And so like I just said, yeah, that sounds like a very military kind of drum is what I said. But how military-ish is it? I don't know for sure. But so I've said that. But, I'm saying here that the battle fanfare music doesn't match. But then, like, talking about the battle music, the difference between the two, the Squall one and the Laguna one, I feel like it's kind of funny because Squall is in Seed, and that's kind of a military thing. And I kind of feel like it could have a military aspect to it, just by my interpretation, right? I don't feel like that could. I don't feel like Laguna's theme could be. Yeah, that sounds kind of like it could be military at all. I don't think you could make the connection. Could you make the connection, Mel?
No, it was very dancey, like you were saying. It's a dance beat. Yeah.
Yeah, and but
it's very other. It to me, it kind of made it feel otherworldly, like kind of like.
Oh, because it's different from all the other songs.
Because it's different from the other songs, and it's like a very different mode. Like you're in a different headspace because you're literally somewhere else, and you don't know what's going on, and that's part of the intention.
So that's a good point. Yeah. Also, so I was thinking, maybe they're not going for. Maybe Nobuo Uematsu wasn't going for military versus non-military, because it doesn't really make sense to say, well, we got to make a non-military song for Laguna because he was in the military during those first
Right.
flashbacks.
Yeah, he was wearing more of a military dress than Squall, for
right?
sure.
Yeah, but I wonder if they're thinking, well, we got to have the more stoic-sounding military one, and then the more fun dance one. Not because it's a military thing, but because of the difference in personalities. So now I want to ask you: have you noticed a difference between compare or a contrast between Laguna and Squall? I mean, you haven't seen that much of Laguna yet, but
Laguna is like Squall if he just wasn't afraid to be himself.
Whoa, that's interesting. Hadn't thought of it that way.
That's the impression I get. Is he's like the kind of goofy, embarrassed, open person.
Yeah,
that Squall is like bottling it up and
doing
and
everything
not
in his power to avoid becoming, kind of, right?
Yeah. Like he doesn't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
Because for whatever reason he's got bad association with those demeanors or whatever.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I was just thinking maybe they made it for their two different personalities, because you'll see that Squall, he basically has this like he's gonna constantly say throughout the game whatever to lots of people.
Oh yeah, he's already done a whole bunch of that.
Yeah,
and you're given the option to like go like okay ... or whatever or something like that. Which I appreciate. I like that. But you can actually try and be a little nicer. Like a lot of the times they do give you the option to be like, all right, I'll help her. Or something to that effect.
So what have you been doing in those cases?
Usually I've been picking the nicer one because I want to see him be a nicer person, but also because usually the game rewards you when you do.
You mean with like a scene at least, I guess?
Or with anything. And yeah, I want to hear more dialogue. I don't want to just shut characters up. I want to hear more of what they have to say just because...
That's okay. That's a good point. I never noticed this myself, but a podcast that I heard that's doing a super deep analysis on this game, they just recently finished up, and they said that certain plot points, a certain plot point really, seems like it comes out of nowhere if you play Squall as just the quiet, never be nice to anyone version. But if you constantly choose the nice ones, according to them, the plot development that happens doesn't come out of nowhere, and the game is better. The story is better if you do that. So maybe you want to do that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I get the impression some of these decisions are being like tallied up in the background somewhere, but
I don't think it actually changes anything. Just the thing that they were saying is this one thing that happens in the plot seems like it comes from out of nowhere if you don't choose the nice ones, is what they were saying. But if you choose the nice ones, then you kind of see why it happened, is what he was saying. They were saying.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so far the overall cast that's happening here, I think, is a more interesting group. You have Cleus and Renoa, and no one is the girl. You know what I mean? Like, there's not yet. I mean, I know Renoa probably becomes that character.
Okay.
But so far...
She seems like kind of one of the gang on a similar level.
A little bit. Like, she has her own thing going on, and she's kind of got this... I don't know. It feels more normal, like a normal group of people, sort of. And then Selphie, who looks like she's a child.
Yeah, I know.
But...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think I'll ask about a bunch of other, characters in general, maybe after you get further in the game.
Sure.
Because they're like a point for a lot of people. But I would like to ask about what you thought about one specific scene with Irvine that way back in the day, when I first played this game, I had a friend who also played games, and we both played this at the same time, and he hated a lot of things about it, but one of the things he thought was like just so bad was how Laguna is a trained sniper, and he freaking like caves in on himself and can't make the shot. during the Sorceress Deling mission. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you mean Irvine? You said Laguna.
Did I say Laguna? I meant to say Irvine. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Irvine is a sniper. He acts all cool like he's a ladies' man. And then
Yeah.
he's like, okay, time to take the shot. And he's like, I can't do it. And
Yeah.
when my friend saw it, he was like, what the hell? This is the worst character I've ever seen. Like, just the least cool thing I've ever seen in my life. What do you think of that scene, Mel?
I felt like it was missing, and maybe I'll get it, but it felt like it wasn't missing context. Like, is he normally? Is he actually not that good? Like,
Let me see. So you weren't
what's
sure.
going on with this character? So I wasn't sure. At this moment, I'm expecting an answer to that. And if I don't get one, I'll be like, what the fuck was that about? He's just generally nervous. There's got to be a better reason for a character to be that nervous, especially if the games or the story sets up the character to be this like master sniper who's given the mission and also walks this walk of being a big shot, literally.
Yeah.
And then for him
Confident,
to have this weird anxiety attack and performance anxiety, I need a little more just like, if this happens, if there's a reason, does he know like what's going on here that this is happening? Is there something else in play? I expect an answer, but like I said, if I don't get one, I'll probably share the opinion your friend had.
Maybe. There was, I can't remember how much of an explanation we get, but I just do remember him quickly saying, so it's not really a spoiler or anything. He says at some point just to you guys, you know, I sit there and I pour my entire concentration, my entire being into this one single shot, just
one bullet,
just waiting for the moment to shoot it. And you can't believe the amount of pressure it is. Or he says something like that to somebody.
Yeah, you're right. He does.
So yeah, I don't remember how much of a big deal or how satisfying that was to me back then. I mean, yeah, sure. Back then I don't even remember. I didn't even have that feeling that my friend had. I was like, I didn't think about characters back then. I just thought about gameplay.
It didn't like stick all the way out as a sore thumb, but I did like in the back of my mind be like, oh, all right, what's that about? I hope I find out. You know, I hope that's not just a one-off like moment. But also, I do get the impression that basically everyone involved in the events of this entire game so far have almost no qualifications to be doing what they're doing.
Especially freaking Laguna, in my opinion. I mean, you haven't seen as much of him as I have.
I've seen only a little bit of him, but he does seem like a big bumbler and like somebody who really truly is unqualified to be anything with a gun.
Right.
But like Quiggus, who is the soldier, the instructor, doesn't seem like remarkably well-footed in this environment either. Renoa clearly no. Squall is like reluctantly trying to. Yeah. He's good at fighting, but like I don't know that I was ever given the impression he's like mind-blowingly good at fighting. Like these are child soldiers who are probably they've trained a lot, whatever. But are these like world-class like tacticians, and they have trouble keeping their cool? They're just following these weird orders, and I don't know. Like to me, that's just like one of those weird anime cliches where, hey, maybe it's not the best idea to have these like totally novice soldiers save the world. Maybe these are the problems you run into. But, you know, that wouldn't play the audience that they wanted, which was young men at the time. But, yeah, okay. I don't know. I think I also did chalk it up to, well, these are all children.
So you're, like, being pretty, I guess, charitable to the writers in this one.
I guess. I mean, I'm not looking for, like, profound story in a PS1 RPG. I'm looking to play on its level. You know, I'm looking to get into its zone and do what it wants. I'm not trying to overjudge.
Okay. So you may have noticed. I remember that when I played it back in the day, one thing I really liked was the whole clear-cut mission format of the game, and that continues for a long part of the game. Maybe not the whole game, but for a long time of it. And so but disc 1 in particular, everything's like, okay, first thing you gotta do, you gotta go take the test at Fire Cavern. Okay, next thing I do, got to go on the seed exam at Dalit. Okay, next thing you got to do is do this Forest Owls mission. Okay, next thing I do, get on the train to get out of Timber. Like, I don't know. And then when you get to Deling City and he takes you through the whole thing, like, okay, you're going to sit here. And when she comes out of here, you're going to shoot her. And if you fail, you got to lower the gates. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. I love when they, make a big deal out of it, even though it's kind of weird.
It's not that big a deal when you get to it. Like, when it first started, like when they were doing the whole train mission, I was like, whoa, wait, what? What am I doing? Hang on. Yeah. There's a guy, there's a scanner, there's a blue scanner, there's a red scanner.
Yeah.
Do this combo, go here, run across the thing, and then when you do it, like almost half of those mechanics don't even happen.
You're absolutely right. So that's a funny thing, yo. I never really understood it for a long time until way later. Apparently, you can ignore a lot of the things that were said during the thing, but I don't think it was a mistake. I think they just did it on purpose. For example, there's the red guy and the blue guy, and they have their scanners, and like one of the carts where you're gonna run across the top. Like, I guess you're supposed to worry that they're gonna like notice you if you just run across at the wrong timing or something. But like they're like scanner on. Oh, what? It won't turn on or something.
Yeah.
So you can just ignore that, just run across. Like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, okay, is this not happening now? I did actually get caught a couple times because you get stuck entering the code.
Entering the number, yeah.
Yeah, so that, and then they pity you by upping the timer every time you get stuck.
Was that it?
I was like, fuck you. I could do this. But, yeah, that ended up being a lot less complicated because initially I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember half of what you just said here.
Yeah.
But it's cool because it does give you that like vibe of like, this is an operation. We have a plan. Do this.
Okay, and I guess the last thing, I'm not sure if we should talk about the Laguna scenes yet. I mean,
really weren't very many of them.
You saw you saw one, right?
I saw one extended one where he was in the hotel.
You go to the hotel and
singer,
talks to Julia and yeah.
It's all embarrassed and whatever.
Yeah.
But there really wasn't a lot to bite on with that scene.
Right, yeah. It's just like a cute scene that, Laguna's in love with this piano player. What did you think about didn't she actually play the song? Like, didn't they play vocals during you sitting in the bar listening to her?
I don't remember.
No, she didn't. That's right. She just played the piano. I remember. And then when you go to her hotel room, she's like, I actually want to be a singer, too. That's what happened.
Right.
Now I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, I really like the way they went with the soundtrack because later in the game soundtrack, you'll hear, a song that's basically that exact same piano melody that she plays. That was just like a piano version of this game's vocal pop song. Lots of JRPGs have a vocal pop song in the credits or something, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then last thing I want to ask you, though, what did you think just overall of the Dalit mission, which you had to go on to choose to be assigned, to see if you could become a seed, and then after that, you got your rank as well?
The Dalit mission.
The one where you were in the ships, and then you crash landed on the shore, sort of crashed onto the shore. And then you're with Cypher, and you're running through there, and fighting lots of soldiers, and then.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. I totally forgot all about that somehow because that must have been earlier on when
It's like the first thing you do after the Fire Cavern. So yeah, it's.
Yeah. So that was a really cool one because they had a lot of that integrated FMV where that fucking spider robot is busting through the houses.
Yeah.
Chasing you. That was really impressive. I totally was like shocked in a couple scenes. I was like, whoa, this is actually kind of cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How many times did you think you ended up fighting that spider robot?
Oh, probably about 4 or 5 times, and then they're like, "Gotta run away!" And one time I tried to fight him anyway, and I think he just repaired himself.
Yes,
like, all right, I guess I have to run away.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah, there's lots of really cool things you can, interesting things you can do during that mission. But one of them is you can make it so that the very first time you fight him, you have to fight him, but after that, there is a way, if you can figure it out, to avoid the spider robot in every other scene.
Oh, really?
Which is pretty neat, yeah.
Can you defeat him? Is it possible?
You can't completely defeat him, I don't think. But yeah, I think. Wait a minute. I feel like in the normal way, which is the one that you saw, is you out running from it on the beach, and then as you're about to get hit by it, freaking Quistis on the top of the ship is like unloading the machine gun, like the Gatling gun, and shooting it, and then you escape.
Right.
I'm trying to remember if I feel like some freaking faint. I have a faint memory of like I did just break that thing down like before there, and I just ran into the ship, but that can't be right. I don't think that's possible. But it is possible to bring its health to 0 before it says it's going to do the repairing. And if you do that, it still just repairs as normal. But when you run away from the battle after that, you get 50 AP.
Whoa.
And if you do that like all 6 times, that's
whoa,
like
Jesus.
right? Yeah. So you could try to do that if you want. Also, and that reminds me of like a thing that I consider a flaw in this game is that if you have a freaking ability that you have set for your GF to learn and it's got like 10 points left to learn it, and then you get 50 AP, you don't get the 40 AP applied anywhere else.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
That's so bad, right? So maybe you want to switch them before boss battles if you can anticipate when they're coming.
That's really bad. Oh, yeah. Good to know.
So you just fought the normal amount of random battles, I take it, during that thing?
Yeah. I feel like I did pretty much the normal route, whatever that might be.
Yeah. Did you talk to any of the people standing around? Because there's some people like at the beginning of the beach and stuff.
Probably I did. Why? Something remarkable? I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I'm just curious. They don't say anything remarkable, but I really like the way they all this stuff decides your seed rank, yo.
Right. So I'm rank 5.
Okay, yeah. I guess the highest you can get is like 10 or something.
Okay.
So you could go up a whole another 5 ranks. And
wow.
Yeah, and that's what determines your pay, which is interesting, is it not?
I've noticed running around. I noticed especially because in one place where I got lost because I couldn't find the fucking door, I got paid like 3 times running around. I was like,
that's hilarious.
Is this me that's been weeks?
Yeah, you've been looking for that door for weeks, yeah. Yeah, so it's all secret mechanics, but it's pretty interesting. Every time you talk to somebody during the Dalit mission, minus points.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. If you there are some things. I think killing soldiers up to a certain number gives you plus points, though. I think when there's one battle where freaking Cypher says, "Be sure to let me have the last hits because I'm going to get more experience from it."
Fuck.
I think if you don't do that, that might be minus a point. And if you are when you're running away from the spider robot, if you when you're going to the tower and freaking Selfie's like, dude, let's just jump down, woo! And then you're like, no, I'm gonna walk around. If you jump down, that's minus point. You should walk around to like.
Oh, I walked around.
Yeah, because he'll say you got to scout out the area when you're walking around. Don't jump, okay? Something like that. So that's minus points. During the fire cavern, I think the time limit you choose doesn't matter when you're going to go kill Ifrit and then come back out, right? The time limit you choose doesn't matter, but the amount of time left on the timer at the moment you strike the final blow against Ifrit is the one. And the thing is, they want you to choose the time that is like the closest to the amount of time you're going to need to complete the mission. It's not the most time on the clock wins. In fact, the least time on the clock wins. So I think to get the max points from that is to be within like 5 seconds of the of 0, right? When you not just make the final hit, but also wait for the freaking screen to fade away and it says da 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 da. Like I've had it where like I'm gonna get it right on the spot, and I did it like 1 second before, but then it hit 0 before the fanfare started, so it counted as failed.
Yikes.
Yeah, so that counts.
Gotta celebrate faster.
Exactly, gotta celebrate faster. Yeah, And I think that's it. Yeah. So I thought all that was pretty fun. Oh, and the last one that I remember is that when you're running away from the spider robot, if you freaking run, there's a freaking building that's open. If you run into there to just let the spider robot go by and then escape it. Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. If you go in there, maybe you don't get the scene where Kisis shoots it with the machine gun. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I can't remember for sure. But if you hide in there, that's minus points. You got to run away properly.
You got to run away. All right. Yeah, I didn't hide in there. I didn't see that building.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's all we have to say for today's portion that you played of Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting stuff. For me, the most interesting thing about all the stuff that you said is the things that you noticed just regarding Squall's personality. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you think of it as the game continues, because he has a little bit of story that comes up as these games do. Okay, so I think the next part that we're gonna have you go up to, and I think it's once again a freaking disc change section. I can't be for sure though. From where you are now, which is you're gonna be in a Laguna scene again.
Okay.
Up until you get a large thing that is your mode of transportation. And I don't want to say what it is because it's a fun spoiler.
Okay.
Yeah, but when you get that mode of transportation as part of the story, that's the spot.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's where we'll pick up, ideally, I guess, in 2 weeks from when we're recording this. So you guys might get a little bit after that, depending on when we post it.
Yeah, I haven't even got up the first episode by the time of recording this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look forward to that, everyone. Thank you very much, Mel.
Thank you, Zoltan.
Yep, and we'll see you guys in episode 3 of the Final Fantasy VIII Turn-Based Memories. Thank you.
All right, bye.